Erasmus Strombo, did come through this morning to raise a complaint that their agents in various polling stations were not being given Gen 10, Gen 20 rather, a form that has all the results coming in from the polling station. So this is what we were, this is what we have seen so far this morning. But otherwise, there's a little bit of a slowdown. There's a lag even, from one batch of ballot papers coming in for totaling here. There's take about maybe another 30 minutes for another one to come. Right now, we're just here and we're waiting for another batch to come. So it's a bit slow. And obviously, as a result of the fact that they started a bit late to dispatch full staff yesterday.
How did the electoral officials handle the complaint that was brought in by the candidate you just mentioned?
Right now, the candidate is actually fighting in the complaint right now. I had him on a side interview, and he did raise this concern. He said that this is very, very important for any candidate, because when you have the Gen 20 and you bring it here at the totaling center, so it's some sort of proof that these are the original results, and that is the form that is used to make sure that the results here at the totaling center and at the polling station are tallied. And that, so he's inside there speaking to the returning officer and raising this particular concern. But he, according to himself, says he had been going around, and this is one big complaint that was coming through from various polling stations. And this is Mr. Erasmus Strombo coming from NRPUP, and this is a complaint that he has raised. And we haven't gotten any other complaint of that sort from any other candidate so far, but this came through from him, and then, he's alleging that this is what's happening, and so he's back inside there making this particular complaint. Other than that, there hasn't been any incidents of note. It's been quite smooth sailing.
Without getting into the actual results, you mentioned that 15 polling stations have been announced. How does the voter distribution look like across the political parties? Does it look like all political parties having a share of these results from the 15 polling stations?
Not really. I wouldn't say that. I think majority of the votes are being spread across two parties, I should say, the NRPUP and the United Party for National Development. But also we do see some traction around the RP, the Resolute Party, especially when it comes to the parliamentary seat here. But for presidential and parliamentary put together, it's spread between the NRPUP and the United Party for National Development.
Right. What about the actual atmosphere around Kasama, and if there've been any incidents of violence in the build-up to the counting of the ballots? Have we seen any of that sort so far?
Not till we got here. We've not experienced any sort of violence incidents since we got here on Monday. And last night, especially after the polling stations were closed, Kasama was generally quiet. A lot of the people were indoors, and we could hear some people saying that they just wanted to be in their homes, and as the results start to trickle in, they'd rather be in their homes, locked up, and be away from any sort of harm. But from what we've been able to see since we got here, there hasn't been any sort of violence, except Rachel. One incident the day before elections on Wednesday, when individuals from two political parties had a verbal altercation. Nothing major. It was something that was quickly resolved, and everything moved on. From the time that we've been here, at least we've not been able to hear any violence incidents.
Of the ballot papers inside, and then later on they will begin to actually start announcing. Otherwise, just the atmosphere itself, it has been peaceful, and there has been no violence, and no one is actually causing any commotion as it stands here in Chisamba.
Well, we're glad we're hearing that there's been no commotion happening in Chisamba. But let's just talk on maybe the stakeholders that you've managed to speak to on how they're feeling now that we're at this part of the process, which is day 2, the counting of the votes.
Among the stakeholders that I spoke to from also different political parties, they actually have expressed happiness on how the whole process has actually been conducted from the day that people were voting, coming on down to today, where now the ballot papers actually being brought to the totaling center, for them to be counted and be announced. They're just all put seated and just waiting to just hear what is going to come out at the end of the day. They have just appreciated the conduct of the ECZ here in Chisamba.
Do you know how many polling stations have sent in the results at the totaling center so far?
Well, so far we've seen close to 15. With the time that I was actually inside the totaling center, we saw 15 so far that I brought. But so far I'm actually seeing others are just coming in right now. So the number might have maybe even gone up to maybe 16. Going up that side, because this is when most of them are actually arriving from various destinations. Most of the polling stations are very far away from the totaling center, so they just had to come in this morning, as they also did delay to do the counting. So yeah, that's actually basically the number right there on how many polling stations have actually brought in their ballot papers at the totaling center.
Without getting into the election results for those respective polling stations that have submitted to the totaling center, how does the voter distribution look like in terms of it being at presidential level and parliamentary level? Are all presidential candidates having a bite at these numbers that have come in so far?
Talking about how the vote turnout is actually coming out in terms of presidential, we've seen different outcomes from different polling stations. But talking of Chisamba Primary School, we've seen that from the 6 polling stations that are there, the NRPUP has actually been leading in most of the polling stations, followed by the UPND just there, and the rest, of course, it has actually been zeros that have actually been coming out when it comes to how the presidential voting has actually been.
I'd like for you to describe to us what we're getting to see here. You're telling us you're at the totaling center, and out in the background we see different people. We see some in uniform, but also a woman with a child on her back. What people are still left at the totaling center as of now?
Well, talking of people mostly here at the totaling center, we just have the polling staffs and of course the observers from different political parties, and that are just coming. And most of the polling staffs, they just come here, they deliver the ballot papers, and off they actually leaving the totaling center. They just leaving the observers and the ECZ staff here to do the tallying and the announcing of the results.
Josephat Hamakala, thank you so much for giving us details of what's happening there in Chisamba. And Chisamba is still waiting for the consolidated results. Our report there at the totaling center, and so far about 15 polling stations have been sent to the totaling center, and there's still more to come. And the commission did promise that and commit that later on in the afternoon they'll be able to announce some of these results at presidential level that are coming out of the different constituencies. And we're building up to that as we speak. And
it's not just, it's not later in the afternoon. They said by midday they would give an update. That was as of the last update they gave yesterday. They had given us 2 updates. So with the last one, they said by midday we'll get to hear from the commission. But what we have here, Andrew, this will be updated when we start getting the results, verified results by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. These are the candidates that we have on presidential level. Andrew, we see Mr. Walia Kelvin Fube there, ZMP. We see Mr. Chansa Given Mwenya of MEE. We see Mr. Chunguzevia. You see why he is in black and white, because he had withdrawn. He had officially withdrawn. We have Hakainde Hichilema, who is UPND. We have Harry Kalaba, who is Citizens First. We have Given Katuta, who is an independent, and Kunda Howard of Zawapa on the side.
Others are SP leader, presidential candidate Fred Membe, NRP UP presidential candidate Brian Munduwile, OPP presidential candidate Mushimba Brian, DU presidential candidate Njovu Akem Anthony, CDP presidential candidate Pule Daniel, NFP presidential candidate Siamnene Ritual, and LM presidential candidate Silumbe Richard. Among these, one of them will become Zambia's next president.
Yes, the results will be flowing in, and we'll definitely be updating this as they will be announced by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. As for now, is why you see everybody is at 0, but obviously numbers will begin to change, and percentage will reflect what the Zambians have had to say on whom they want to lead the country. Now, one thing we got to see this year, Andrew, is delimitation. With delimitation, we saw the addition of 70 new constituencies. And with that happening, we moved from 156 constituencies in 2021. And let's just look at that, old constituencies, and looking at the former structure as of 2021, the 156 we are seeing in Central Province, Copper Belt, Eastern, Luapula, Lusaka, Muchinga, Northwestern, Northern, Southern, and Western. So plus 70 new constituencies, we saw it go to 226. That expansion was 44.9%.
Previously, Central Province only had 16 constituencies. An addition of 8 has been added to Central Province. The Copper Belt had 22 constituencies. An addition of 7 has been added to the 22. Eastern Province had 18 constituencies, and 9 has been added. Luapula Province had 15, and 5 more has been added. Lusaka Province had 13 constituencies, 6 more has been added. Muchinga Province, Vida had 10 constituencies, and we're seeing that Muchinga Province, 6 more constituencies have been added. Northwestern Province had a total number of 12 constituencies, and we're seeing that 7 more have been added. We moved to another province, which is Northern Province. Northern Province had a total number of 13 constituencies, and now Northern Province, 6 more have been added, which brings the total to 19. Southern Province had 18, 9 more has been added. Western Province had 19, and 7 more have been added. And so we are seeing a birth of new constituencies. I was voting from a new constituency. Previously in 2021, I voted in Munali, and now Munali has been cut. And now I'm voting from Roma constituency. It was a shock for some of the people that came to vote, because they are their own preferred, member of parliament that they wanted to vote for, and councillors that they want, member of parliament that they wanted to vote for. But when we went into the booth, I could see some say, Sinimona, member of parliament, Wanga, because the constituencies have been shifted, and, your area has been added to.
A lot of sensitization has been called coming from the Electoral Commission of Zambia, so people could understand, because they did cry over that change, because some would register for a certain constituency because they know people there that they want to support. And when the case was different following delimitation, they did express how displeased they were with that development. Well, let's narrow it down to Western Province as we're looking at delimitation. When we look into the old constituencies, we'll get back to this and just understand the old constituencies into understanding the new ones. Also, in case you're still confused, we'll make that clarity. But we are in day 2 of post-election. Election was yesterday. Day 2 is the counting of votes. And we have Kalombe Kapambwe, who is out in Luapula Province, just to give us an update on how the voting process is going right now. Kalombe, this is about 8:30 actually. This is 8:30 in the morning. What does Luapula Province look like with the counting of votes out in Manta?
Yes, apparently, like yesterday, I was very south in Mansa East as well as Mansa West, so the counting of votes was kind of slow in a number of polling stations, and the subsequent delivery in the voting center was something that we didn't see happening.
Well, we seem some difficulties in getting to our reporter there.
We are trying to see what is happening in Bahati constituency. This is where we've actually seen a number of results being trooped in to ensure that the voting centers can get to
864 registered voters. It's got 68 polling stations and it's got 3 constituencies. And at the moment, our reporter is in Bahati. This is where the totaling center is, and now he's given us details of how the building up to the consolidated vote looks like in in Mansa district. Thank you so much again, Kalombeka Pambwe, for joining us. Obviously, later on you give us details of how that is coming up. But let's quickly again look back, at delimitation and what new constituencies, have been built so far.
Now we narrow it down to Southern Province, Andrew. We look at 2021, where we saw old constituencies standing at 18. That is Chikankata, Mbabala, Dundumwezi, Katombola, Magoye, Wengwa, Momba, Pembas, Nazongwe, Choma Central, Gwembe, Kalomo Central, Livingston, Mazabuka Central, Monze Central, Namwala, Siavonga, Mapatizia. This received 9 new constituencies.
If it received 9, then it's got a total now of 27 constituencies, because previously it had 18. The new constituencies in Southern Province are Choma South, Kalomo South, Maramba, Monza East, Kariba, Iteji, West, Kazungula North, Magoye West, and Namwala East. But let's try again to speak with our reporter, Kalombeka Pambwe, who is up north, to get details of how the counting is going so far and how many more polling stations are remaining before the consolidated result is given by the totaling center. Kalombeka Pambwe, good morning. We're getting details from you on how the count is going. Are you able to give us more details with regards to this?
A very good morning to you. It's a pleasure to be on as we get to participate in the electoral process, as we are also key stakeholders in this whole entire process. So yesterday in my preamble, I did make mention that I was predominantly domiciled in Mansa East as well as Mansa West constituencies, trying to see how things are unfolding from the closure of the polling stations following the opening of these respective polling stations at exactly 6 hours. So the counting was happening in various polling stations, but what we did see, what we did note in Mansa East as well as Mansa West is the slow the provision of transport to ferry the ballots to the totaling center at Mansa College of Education and the other polling totaling center. So as of now, we have actually gotten a few of what is happening in Bahati constituency, because following the delimitation exercise, we have now 3 constituencies. So in the background, you are able to see that some ballots, this is when we are yet to be given these results by the ECZ to ensure that people get to understand what is actually coming through from various polling stations across Bahati constituency. But with me right now, I've actually gotten hold of 1 polling station in Rwankoko for the presidential results, and we have KPF that got 9, given got 3, Mr. Xavier Chumbu got 2, Mr. Haga in the Ishlema got 100, Mr. Harry Kanaba got 17.
I hope you can hear me. Mansa district has a total number of 68 polling stations, with the total registered voters currently standing at 44,864. So far, do we know how many polling stations have made results available to the totaling center? Kalombeka Pambwe, do you know how many of the polling stations have made available the results to the totaling center?
Okay, so as of now, at least 3 polling stations have made available the results to the totaling center. And as looking at what is happening in the background, the recent results have just trooped in, and obviously the presiding officer will be able to give out these results before the monitors go as observers that are at Council Rest House to ensure that they get to understand what is coming through from the respective polling stations. We've actually seen a steady improvement with regards to the pace at which these results are actually coming in compared to yesterday, because there was counting in the respective polling stations and trying to ensure that everything is actually put in order before they are taken to the respective total centers. So we've actually seen a steady flow of results in 2 polling stations, and as of now we've just kick-started the tour over the totaling centers, and this is the first one that we are doing in Bahati constituency, and this is the few that we get. It is all cool as people get to await the results being ferried into the respective totaling centers.
All right, thank you so much, Kalombe Kapambwe, for giving us details of what's happening up north in Luapula province.
It seems like a slow start on that side if we're looking at only 3 polling stations having sent ballot boxes to the totaling center. It does look like it's a slow start out of the many that we're seeing, over 68. That's where we're standing at now. But we will get to catch up with more of our reporters. For now, let's get an understanding of how things are going in the Copperbelt province. We have Respite Kaoma, who is joining us with an update from Ndola Central. Respite, good morning. Tell us how it's going in Ndola Central with the counting process.
We're getting what's happening in Ndola Central there and generally the Copperbelt with our reporter Respite, a very important province when it comes to every election cycle, because of the fact that Copperbelt has been recording the highest number of eligible registered voters, and it's one of the swing provinces in terms of what the presidential candidates are looking to. All the 13 presidential candidates want to have a bite, at the over 1 million registered voters that are on the Copperbelt. Respite, we hope we can get you better now. We're asking about how, so far, the results are coming up.
Okay, so results are coming in, but the issue is the process itself is a little bit slow, because the ballot boxes started arriving last night around 21 hours, and when we look at Ndola Central, it has about 74 polling stations, and as we speak right now, only 6 polling stations have been announced so far. So that is the status quo at the moment. But however, with that said, the situation is calm. It's peaceful. Just starting from yesterday when the voting started, the situation was just calm and peace also. So that is what is currently prevailing here in Ndola Central. So as we speak, various stakeholders in the war, in the school, where the counting of the ballot is taking place. So that is the status quo at the moment here in Ndola Central.
Let's get to this also, Respite. When we look at what we got to hear even from the Electoral Commission of Zambia yesterday in their update, was admitting that some polling stations had to close later on in the day, beyond 6 p.m. because they opened late. They had started with voting. People started voting late there. Could maybe the slow start that we're seeing from some polling stations be attributed to that fact that maybe most of them had opened late? They started voting late.
Yes, we had such reports, like in there is one Temwani, where such reports were raised that the polling station happened to open a little bit late and it was delayed to close. So those are the factors that are leading to this. But however, the ECZ has assured stakeholders that have gathered here that they will make sure that the process is being done within a stipulated time. That is what they have stated, and stakeholders are patiently waiting and one thing we cannot run away from it is that there is that anxiety. There is that anxiety. We even saw one of the candidate, Mr. Emmanuel Mlenga. He even visited last night. He was even in the school just to see how the process is being done. So that itself clearly showed that there is a little bit anxiety building, because people, they want to know the final results. People, they want to know who has won. So these are the issues that are obtaining on the ground here in Ndola Central.
You mentioned earlier on that Ndola Central District rather has a total number of 74 polling stations, and so far only 6 polling stations have made available the results to this totaling center. From the general overview of these 6 polling stations, how does the vote look like for the top contenders?
Come again?
You mentioned that only 6 polling stations have provided election results to the totaling center. From the 6 polling stations, how does the voter distribution look like without getting into the results? Generally, how does it look like? Where is it swinging towards the 6 polling stations?
Okay, actually, based on the 6 polling station, when we look at the numbers itself, it shows that people really indeed they did turn out to vote. But however, it's just the issues of the delays. But looking at the numbers, we can say numbers do not lie. We could see that there is a lot people that turn out to vote in this 6 polling station. Yeah, so that is what I can say for now, based on the data and the numbers that we are seeing from the 6 polling stations. But however, the gap, because we are talking about 6 polling stations and then we have got about 74 polling stations, that means we are remaining of about somewhere 70 polling stations that have not yet been announced. So it is a long way to go, I can say.
Well, thanks, Respite, for giving us details of what's happening in Ndola district. Quite a slow process, as explained by Respite, that only 6 out of the 74. It means that remaining 68 polling stations to have had their results get to the totaling center.
It seems to be the trend in most of these places that the process is kind of slowed down, and you would, like we were talking there, attribute it to the slowness in the extent in which they had to give, allocating the 12 hours, the full 12 hours that polling stations should be open. So if a polling station only opened at 10 in the morning, meant it was open up until 10 p.m. So that could affect the start of the counting of the votes as well. Well, let's move to the Eastern Province and get an understanding on what's going on there, as we have Samuel Kwawe joining us just to give us what's happening with Chipata Central as we continue with getting an update on the counting process, the second day with this electoral process. Well, Samuel, it is almost 9 in the morning now. What does counting look like in Chipata Central?
Thank you so much. Very cold in Chipata, about 15 degrees Celsius, but I was at Chipata Central Totaling Center early in the morning, and we had about 26 polling stations which had been verified and announced by the returning officer Ruben Simfukwe by around 7 hours. But right now, I'm in Chipata North, where also the Totaling Center and results are being announced here in Chipata North as well. So just behind me, this is officials who are currently announcing results from different polling stations. We're talking about 66 polling stations, and right now we're talking about 12 polling stations which have been able to be announced, and a lot of staffs are here who have come from different polling stations so that they can have the results handed over. So that is what is currently happening right now. And in Chipara Central, we saw that the contestation is between the two candidates of the current president, Hakainde Hichilema, and the NRPU candidate, Brian Mundwire. So that's what we've seen, and most of the candidates have been getting votes which are below 5, most of them, and that is the trend at the moment which we're seeing even here in Chipara North. That is the trend we're seeing even at parliamentary level as well as at local government level. Those are the signs which we are able to see here.
Scott, you mentioned that the trend at the presidential level is between NRPUP is Brian Mundwile and UPND's Hakainde Hichilema. But what about the member of parliament level? Because I think Eastern Province has been quite a peculiar province, Vida, when it comes to the voting pattern, especially when it comes to voting for members of parliament. How does it look like from the polling stations that you have observed so far and have been sent to the totaling center?
Yes, Andrew. If you look at the voting pattern for Eastern Province, even from the 2021 elections, even coming into this particular election, as you rightly said it is very interesting. But what we've seen in this particular election from the few polling stations in able to to see here and being verified and announced by the Electoral Commission of Zambia is that we've seen NRPUP having an upper hand in terms of the votes which have come so far. So we wait for the official results to see which particular candidate. In Chipata Central, for example, it's very interesting because we only have 2 candidates, because the other candidate for leadership movement withdrew from the race, and we only had 2 candidates of the NRP, UP, Ruth Grant Piri, as well as George Mwanza, the United Party for National Development. So the choice for the voters were not diverse. It was only 2 people. They should make a decision between the 2, and the race is very tight. And by the end of the day, the Electoral Commission of Zambia will be able to give us verified results and who will emerge victorious. At this particular moment, we don't know yet, as from the official results from the Electoral Commission of Zambia. In Chipata North, what we've seen is that also NRPUP is having an upper hand in terms of the results which are being announced, but the official results have made the winner. We don't know yet, and this is where the former Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Benny Mtoro-Pili, had contested together with other candidates who are stood on independent as well as the citizen first.
All right. Well, Samuel, we will definitely be getting back to you as counting of votes continue. For now, let's get talking to another one of our reporters as we continue with the updates. So we have one in Lukasha, and that's Angela. Angela is joining us from Lukasha just to give us an update on the voting process so far, the counting process so far, as this is day 2. Good morning, Angela. Here we are out in Lukasha at 9 in the morning. How is the counting process going?
Good morning, thank you. Votes are coming in slowly. We are having people coming from different polling stations bringing the votes, and ECZ is verifying the votes. Right now we have 12 that have been announced, though we do not have a consolidation yet.
So you've got 12 out of 88 that have been announced so far. Tell us how the flow of these results look like, not the actual results from the different polling stations, but how does it look like in terms of who is leading and who is not, especially the two top contenders that are coming from the results that have been announced, 8 out of the 88 polling stations. 12 rather.
So far, we have Brian Mundubile for the NRPUP leading, followed by Hakainde Hichilema of the UPND.
Is it like that at the other levels of other positions, the member of parliament, councillor level, as well as mayoral level? Is the pattern the same?
Yes, that's the same pattern that is going, except for one of the wards, Kapongolo ward, the councillor was unopposed. So for councillors, one of the councillors, we are unable to tell how it would have been in case of not being opposed. But for the rest of the other contestants, it's going the way Brian and Hichilema is.
What else do we have to know, Angela, in terms of what's happening in Kasama district, besides what you've told us? What else do we have to know?
I've noticed there's a bit of, I wouldn't say a bit of confusion in transport, but I think there's very slow communication in terms of transports, of ferrying back those that were in different polling stations, because from yesterday, around 22 hours, we only started receiving polling staff around 4 in the morning, somewhere there.
All right. Well, we'll get back to you and just get to understand as more of these ballot boxes make their way to the totaling center. That is Angela. Angela is out in Lukasha as she was giving us an update on how things are going. Angela Mtambo is one of our correspondents there. We have been taking a look at what has been the result of delimitation, Andrew, which we have now even speaking to some of our reporters. Some have been telling us what's happening in the newly delimitated constituencies. And so with things having moved smoothly, let's just continue with taking a look at what it looked like, these different constituencies looked like in 2021 versus what we're seeing here with the addition.
But before we do that, let's maybe look at what again is happening in the eastern part of our country. As we speak to Emmanuel Nkata to give us details of what's happening in Chama Central. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining us on the Zambian vote. Give us details of how the vote count is going in Chama Central.
Thank you so much. I'm here at the Council Chamber, the polling center for Chama Central Constituency. Chama Central Constituency has 40 polling stations. So far, the polling center has received at least 3 polling station results or ballot papers. So behind me is some presiding officer, and this is a team coming from a different polling station, handing over the ballot paper and also the 20 forms to the returning officer here at Council Chamber, where is the Chama Central take it as a center for Chama Central. I mean, it's a totaling center for Chama Central Constituency.
If I got you correctly, you said that only 3 polling stations have made available the results to the totaling center. If I got you clearly, you said that only 3 polling stations have made available results to the totaling center. We know for a fact that Chama district has a total of 40 polling stations. From the 3, polling stations that have announced their results as of yet, who is leading and who is following the leader?
The opposition, the main opposition, that is the National Restoration Party Unit for Prosperity, under the leadership of Brian Mundubile. so far is leading from where these political, totaling polling stations. So far from these three, Lani Mundubile is leading, followed by Mr. Hakainde Hichilema.
3 out of 40. This is a slow start that we have seen from different parts of the country with the reporters that we've been talking to. But Emmanuel, here, maybe just let us know, what time did counting start in most of the polling stations that you were able to visit?
So yesterday I was at the Chama High School polling station. So the polling station there was closed at exactly 18 hours, but counting of ballot papers started around 19. So I'm sure Chama High School has 5 streams. So they started around 19 counting of ballot papers. Some streams ended counting the ballot paper around 04:05, somewhere there. So that is what happened here in some polling stations.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Out in Chama Central there, just giving us an update on how counting is going. Let's move to Luangwa and get an understanding from Mike Mwendechabe, who is joining us now as we continue with getting an update on the counting process. Mike, good morning. Give us more details on what we are seeing now out in Luangwa on this day too. Well, we should be connecting to Mike very soon and just get an understanding. He's in Feira, which is in Luangwa district. Yesterday, we got to speak to Mike Mwendechabe through the day, Andrew, as people were making their way out to vote. People managed to vote. And the closing of some of these polling stations, our reporters were able to give us that update. And even now, with the counting process, they are giving us those updates. Mike, let's just get an understanding now of what things look like in Luangwa district in Feira as counting is underway.
Well, to be specific, I should also make mention, to say, voting, the voting process actually in most polling stations right here in Luangwa was able to be concluded at exactly 18 hours yesterday, and the counting process started immediately then by midnight heading to early morning around 01:02. A lot of polling stations were actually done with the counting process. Now here, the main challenge is that polling stations are far apart from each other. They are in far-flung places. So the big issue is really the transportation of moving these ballot papers from the various polling stations to the totaling center right here where I am at. As you can see, on my right-hand side, you can see to say the actually polling staff that are actually coming in, bringing the said results. So voting as well as counting is all concluded. I was able to talk to the district election officer, Mr. Grayson Sakala, and he did confirm to say indeed the counting process is also done. But even the counting process being done, we have a number of results that we've actually gotten that were verified as well as announced by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, coming from 17 polling stations. But it's just 17, we still have a number to go, because speaking of 46 in total, so we've only managed to get 17 polling stations out of the total, which is 46.
17 looks to be very progressive compared to the numbers that we've gotten from other parts of our country. But from these 17 constituencies, who seems to be leading at presidential level?
Well, I mean, Farah, you know, Farah, yeah, this is the famous Farah that most people talk about. But in terms of the presidential level, NRPUP leader, Brian Mundule seems to be taking an upper hand in this particular election. But the Electoral Commission of Zambia are yet to consolidate the results. But speaking of the 17 polling stations that have been announced, Brian Mundule seems to be taking an upper hand, but not just him on the presidential level. We still have a number of contestants that are contesting the National Assembly position, of which we have one that is coming from the Socialist Party, another one we have Danford Mackay coming from the United Party for National Development, as well as Emmanuel Tembo, who is contesting under the National Reconciliation Party for Unity and Prosperity, which also seems to be taking a very, very, comfortable and upper hand in that National Assembly position. But the UPND are also coming up very much closely on the council chairperson position with, their candidate Loveness Banda seeming to be taking a very comfortable, or an upper hand on that particular position, which is the, council chairperson position.
Well, thank you so much for giving us details of what's happening in Luangwa District. Luangwa District Vida has a total number of 19,523 registered voters. It's got 46 polling stations. Impressively enough, I think it's one of the constituencies that districts so far that has received a number of polling stations that have been counted and have been sent to the totaling center.
Seems to be moving at an okay pace compared to what we've been hearing so far with our interaction with our reporters from across the country. Now, we have continued to speak to our reporters on this part, getting an understanding of how counting is going. And as Diamond Media will be updating the numbers as soon as the Electoral Commission of Zambia gives their verified results. So we'll be updating, especially we'll have a leaderboard that will be indicating to you. So that's something to look forward to. Going back to delimitation and what we saw, just a comparison now, the addition of 70 new constituencies, Andrew, versus in 2021. When we narrow it down to Northwestern Province here, we had seen 12